I would say that this is kind of funny because I don't think I've ever told you guys this on my channel. Ciao y'all, NaturallyKenya here and welcome back to my channel. Today is my 5-year Italian anniversary. I have lived in Rome for 5 years today, and it's a very important day that I always put on my calendar just to remind myself every time the year kind of ticks by. If you're new here, my name is Kenya, yes, like the country, and I'm an American girl living abroad in Rome, Italy, documenting my life and sharing my authentic experiences with all of you. It actually is surreal that we're going on 5 years. 5 years and a few hours at this point. I arrived here September 12th, 2016. Shocking. And I thought it was really the proper time to actually come at you guys with a new video, kind of reflecting and sharing my thoughts with you, and also a bit of advice that I would give myself then. A lot of you actually asked me a few questions, so I decided to incorporate that into a list that I have here, just to answer a bit of self-reflection questions for myself, but also have an element of audience involvement as well for this video. Sorry, it's getting hot in here. I'm gonna put this hair up. I'm starting to get a little toasty, so let's go. Let's start on the question. So the first question is, what did you discover about yourself? Okay, this is an interesting question. First of all, I think I discovered that you're stronger than you think you are. I mean, just being of a different shade anywhere in the world where you don't necessarily blend in ever. It's interesting to combine that with my experience in Italy as well. There have been times where I really felt like I was on the outside of pretty much every day here. You know, that's just my honest experience. Now, that kind of made me realize that I needed to always be my authentic self. I feel like I always am, but you kind of go abroad and think, okay, well, I want to blend in. I want to, make sure that, I learn these cultural habits or learn the language. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think there's an important element that you still have to maintain in yourself, and that is the individuality. And that's something that I feel like I am very proud to say that I have maintained. And now I try to translate that into my Italian life as well. So what I discovered about myself in the last 5 years is that you really don't need to change as much as you think you do. Of course, it's important to make those amendments, like, of course, learn the language, things like this, but you don't have to change who you are at the core. So that's something that I definitely discovered about myself. So the next question is, what have been your best moments in Italy so far? One memory that really comes to mind is during my first few months in Italy. I think I was even at a 6-month mark. I'm not really sure of the month now, but it would have to be whenever I was actually on a trip in Sicily in Agrigento. So that is kind of, I can't say it's near Palermo, but I kind of use it as the jumping off point from Palermo. I took a train there and it was amazing. And I'll say this because I remember back in my Italian language learning journey and cultural experiences and language exchange online, which I was like 9 years old when I, initially started my I want to learn Italian and live in Italy vibes. And I actually joined this language exchange website. Yeah, parents, watch your children. It wasn't illegal to join the website, but I'm pretty sure you had to be an adult because essentially you were to chat and exchange messages, try to get to know a new language and things like that. Well, one of the people that I met there was actually a guy from Agrigento, and he was trying to speak English, and I would correct him, and I would do the same thing in Italian. And I remember Googling his city and seeing these photos on Google thinking there is no possible way I will ever make it to Agrigento. I honestly thought that. I thought there's no way that I'll ever make it to that side of the world. Okay, Italy, yes, but then Sicily is like over there. I know I don't want to say over there, but it's not necessarily on the mainland. I don't know how you want to say it. Is that right to say? Whatever. I'm just going to call it like that. And I never thought I'd make it there. And so when I went for vacation from Palermo to Agrigento, and I went to the wonderful Hotel Villa Athena, that's the name. And it's one of these really, really beautiful boutique hotels there. And I remember just arriving, and guys, I was having a aperitivo and I was wiping away the tears. I was wiping away the tears because I actually never thought that I would make it to Agrigento. It was one of the earliest memories I have of wanting to live in Italy and actually making kind of a personal connection with someone who lived there, to see, you know, how people live. And of course, the hotel is amazing. It has actually a view straight onto the temples with a private entrance as well. So it was something really, really unique. And it's basically one of the best moments I have in Italy that I really won't forget, ever. Okay, so the next question is, what worries me most about the future in Italy? Worries me most. Okay, this is kind of a strange question. What worries me most? Maybe getting to a certain point in my professional life that like maybe I won't be able to supersede. But I think that's something that's a possibility anywhere in the world, no? I think I would still feel that way if I were in the States or, you know, just, you know, out of my element. I think that is something that I tend to think about. Not often, but it is something I consider just because, I mean, if you've watched some of my other videos about living in Italy and salaries in Italy and working in Italy, things like that, it is really difficult for a lot of Italians as well as foreigners to really establish themselves here and kind of grow at the rate maybe that you do stateside. So it's something that I've always taken into consideration and something that I put less importance on. And I think that's something that I did mention to all of you in one of my previous videos, that, you know, you kind of, when you change your environment, you also change some of your priorities. And I definitely see that family and friends kind of take precedence over work here. And that's something I actually really enjoy and something I really like. I think that's kind of how it should be. So just know that when you come here or you're just thinking about moving abroad, that every country kind of has their priorities, like unwritten sometimes, but also sometimes stated, that you have to adjust to. So that would probably be one thing that worries me, but it doesn't worry me enough to go back to the States at this moment. Okay, next question. If you had the opportunity, what would you tell your childhood self? This is so funny. I would actually tell her, keep studying that Italian book. Study some more grammar because you're going to need it, to be completely honest. And I also would tell her, don't worry about coming to Italy, girl. You'll eventually come over here. It's fine. Because I think I had this idea and dream of moving to Italy, although I didn't really consider any of the downsides and the cons to living here as well. It was basically like a dream with no negatives. And I think that's something that, looking back, I wish I would have kind of scribbled in a notebook, you know, just because every place has pros and cons. And I also did a video of this on my channel as well, because I think that a lot of people see Italy as this perfect place. Every place has its drawbacks, even Italy, even the States, everywhere. So that's why I say that I like to share my authentic experiences here. And one of those was making that video for you guys on the cons. And to be honest, I actually stand by every word I said in that video because it is my authentic truth and how I feel about living here as well. Obviously, the pros are fantastic as well. So that's, you know, a given. But I think I would tell my childhood self, keep studying those books. You can do it. Find a way to link, you know, educational goals and professional goals together. Stick with it. You can do it. And yeah, write a little bit of the downsides to moving abroad as well in that notebook. Okay, kind of shifting over to more of the questions I get on Instagram from DMs or emails as well. And that would be, would you recommend Rome? Okay, so I think this as well really just depends on your situation and how you're actually coming to move abroad, to Rome or Italy in general. If you have already established yourself, I think that it would be a good idea to move to Rome. If you want to study, I think it's a good idea to move to Rome. If you're in the arts, architecture, maybe as well the engineering side, but in Milan, that's great as well. I think it's just important to come over here prepared to, how can I say this nicely? I'm thinking about how I can say this. To support yourself without relying on a new job or field of expertise. For example, I studied engineering. I am not interested in teaching English. There's nothing wrong with teaching English, but what I'm saying is it's not something that I studied. If you ask me to teach you English, of course I could try, but to sit and pretend like I know all the grammar rules that just come to me naturally, that's not the truth. And I did not have a career aspiration to be a certified teacher or things like that. But there is always that element of kind of stepping out of your comfort zone that's available for you. And there are certain things that I didn't necessarily want to explore, even though I know that I could do them. So I would recommend Rome to those people that are adventurous. They love architecture. They're really interested in art history, really studying this city and visiting the sites. People that are really into history. I really like the technical side of things, not going to lie to you. Like, I like learning about the engineering elements to these structures. But I would recommend Rome to someone who doesn't mind, the sounds of the street, the traffic. I just think you have to be prepared for that big city vibe. So I would recommend Rome to those people who have those expectations, and also people that just love good food, good, chats with friends and family, and just that like home feeling energy. So the next question is, how did you handle diversity? Okay, this is interesting. This is the interesting question. To be honest, my whole life, I have never been in spaces where there were only people that look like me. I have to be honest. Throughout all of elementary, middle school, high school, I took the advanced placement courses that already kind of, it's sad to say, but it really did eliminate a lot of the diversity that I could have experienced in those spaces, just because they were at a certain level, which actually says a lot about the educational system, but we're not going to get into that. And just at university, just alone from studying engineering, that really limited my, that really limited the amount of diversity that was there. Is it right? No. But is it my truth? Yes, it's true. To get minorities to pursue STEM subjects is something that I'm really, really passionate about. And I hope to expand on that in the future, because I just know that someone being in that space that you didn't necessarily know existed could change everything for you. Seeing, a Black woman engineer, to my little 7, 8, 9-year-old self, I knew that could be me. And sometimes there's just an exposure element as well that needs to be discussed. But I do think it's getting better. And that kind of mentality and thought process, it did follow me to Italy. If you were the only Black girl in Texas in the class, and you're definitely going to be the only Black girl in the class in Italy, most likely. So handling diversity, to be honest, I'd say that I have the experience of being in spaces where it's just me. It's just me and my twin sister as well. So, I don't know, guys. How did I handle it? You kind of just do. You just do. I don't know how to explain it. It's just something that you can't change. I kind of think that everyone on this planet is just walking around with exterior packaging that are carrying souls. Does that make sense? Like, the outside, obviously that's what people see you as and how people describe you, how you look. That's just what people do. But I feel like it's not always the most important element. Have you ever just met someone that is beautiful on the outside and their soul is ugly? like, that's not cute, you know? So I think about it in a different way that, yes, of course, the issues are there. Yes, of course, I've had comments living in Italy. But it's not really something that I stay and dwell upon, because to be honest, there were situations that happened in Texas too. So can I say Italy is any better than Texas? I'll just say it that generally people don't do it to your face. Here, I feel like maybe people are a little more bold in Texas, but people will do things behind your back. So not really much to say on that. Just how do you handle it? You just do. Okay, next one. What is a piece of advice you give to someone who wants to move to Italy? To have patience. If you are impatient here, you're gonna move back in 1 month. Just going through the visa process is a nightmare and a headache alone. So you just have to prepare yourself. And I say that, and I thought I came prepared, and it was much worse than I thought. But the piece of advice I would have for people moving to Italy is just be patient. Be patient with yourself, learning the language, getting the visa, settling in. I personally don't think, another piece of advice I give people, I don't think you should buy a property until you rent in that place for at least a year to see if you even like the area. That's my opinion. But guys, I honestly think you need to move over here, get your visa, live whatever experience by renting a home in the city you think you want to live in for at least a year. And if you still love it as much as you did on the first day, buy a property. That's my advice, because you don't want to make a real estate error, in my opinion. So the next question that I get pretty frequently is, I want to move to Italy. What is my best first step? How can I move to Italy too? I actually made a video on the different types of visas that are available in Italy to actually help you guys with a condensed guide of the most popular visa types. But unless you have Italian ancestors, it's a little difficult to move here. So the best way for you to move to Italy, I would say this answer would vary just depending on probably your age bracket. If you're younger, I think the best way for you to move to Italy is actually save everything you can and find a certain degree, maybe a master's degree program. Maybe you've already done your bachelor's degree, or you haven't and now you want to do it. I think that's a great first step for people that are younger. I was in my early 20s. Well, now I'm in my late 20s. Eek. That's weird to say. Moving to Italy. And I think that was the best step that I took to kind of settle into my Italian life. Just look out there, research if you see any bachelor's or master's degrees, maybe PhDs that you're interested in, and kind of pursue it that way. I think it's a great first step. Also, it's easier, I believe, on the visa process. They're all complicated, but I think when you're studying, it makes it a little easier to kind of settle in at also lower costs, like lower budgeting costs, as like in terms of maybe you'll share an apartment or share the utilities. It's a good first step, in my opinion, to moving to Italy. Now, if you are a bit older, I would say that you should look at transforming whatever business that you do have, or maybe finding a particular skill that you're really good at and trying to market that first wherever you come from. So I'm just going to use the States as an example because I'm from the US. Have that brand, build that brand, focus on that brand stateside, and then take that with you in Italy. I think that's the best step for you as well. That way you already have your clientele from back there, and you can kind of wrap that into your everyday Italian life. Now, if you're a little bit older, I would say that if you're closer to retirement, the best thing you can do, in my opinion, is choose to retire in Italy. So I really think this answer depends on your age bracket and really what you're focused on. I only kind of grouped in that middle age bracket to just say that usually that's the years of your life where it's really career focused, or you're already at a project manager role or the owner of the company. And I think that that's something that you can still pursue, but just do it better while staying in Italy. No. The next question, do you get homesick? I get this question pretty frequently, actually, and I have one answer for you guys. No. No, I don't. Okay, and that's not an offense to my family. Love you guys. But I just saw myself in Italy for so long, and I've always had this adventurous spirit where I like new places, new things, and to go and see just everything new that I don't get homesick. I really don't. Plus, can we be honest? This isn't like 1912. We have technology. So a FaceTime call, of course, it doesn't replace actually being there in person. But for me, it's something that I cherish just as much as being home. So without that technology element, I think I would actually say, yeah, I feel bad and I want to, talk to my family and see them and, the works. But to be honest, I don't really get homesick just because I know that I always have FaceTime and technology available, thank God, to, call home whenever I just want to talk to them. So it doesn't really bother me. Okay, so the next question, and kind of deep one, I would say, is who do you hope to become in the next 12 months? Wow, this is a crazy question. Considering next time I'll probably sit down and do a reflecting video will be 6 years in Italy, which seems insane to even say, all going well. I would say that this is kind of funny because I don't think I've ever told you guys this on my channel. Well, funny thing is, I know some of you have a good eye out there and you've noticed some things in my previous Instagram posts. One thing in particular that I never formally, gave any information about. And that is the fact that I am engaged right now. So in the next 12 months, you're probably going to see some photos here pretty soon. I will eventually become a whole wife, which is crazy to say. I say a whole wife because I just still feel so young and like a kid at heart that it sounds so crazy to say. But yeah, guys, this is in the works and I'm really excited about it. I think it's just going to be an interesting new chapter that kind of changes everything after the 5-year mark. What is it about 5 years? Like half a decade that things just kind of, shift and change. But yeah, that's what's going on in my life currently. That's why I've kind of been less active on social media because there's a lot going on personally, professionally, like a lot to do. And so YouTube kind of took a back seat to these arrangements. But yeah, I hope to include you guys a bit more in the future on that. I know a lot of people have their relationships out there in the public eye, and there's nothing wrong with that, and I'm not criticizing that, but I like to keep a portion of myself and my life offline so that if you actually knew me, if you're my real friend, you are aware of my relationship status, what's going on, this whole marriage thing, like you would know that. But I think that it's important because I feel like a lot of people, in general, I don't want to say us, but a lot of people in general, they tend to overshare. And I feel like that's not something I am really interested in doing, at least not at this phase of my life. I don't want to say never, but just not right now. I like to keep things close to my heart that are important to me. And yes, that's what's going on in my life right now. And I think it's a good note to end the video on. So yes, guys, I am, in fact, engaged and I will be a whole wife down the line here soon enough. And I'll try to share a bit of that. Well, the elements that I want to share with you guys, I'm going to curate it a bit, sorry. But I will be sharing that as well. So I'm excited, and I just want to thank you all for tuning in to this 5-year self-reflection question and answer session and I guess engagement announcement. And that's all I have for you in this video, guys. So make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next one. Ciao, y'all.